Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you again to the podcast, A Million Stars to Self Empowerment by Abdul Fattah Muhammad. I am the author of the book, and I'm going to be commentating on the book itself. I usually read, and talk about the readings of the book and the findings of it. We have gotten through thus far a good portion of the book. I would say that we've gotten through close to half of it so far. And we did talk about the biography of the book. I'm sorry, the author's biography, the history of the book, the introduction, and now we're on human habits. The human habits we have discussed thus far being open minded, positive, having positive open mindedness, and also we have discussed consistency. Now we're on being focused, a habit which, a lot of times tends to be overlooked as far as being focused. Attention to detail is very close to being focused, and this is a lot of this is what a lot of corporations use as far as uh, you know being something which is a competency. Being focused itself is usually, in my opinion, having to do with one particular thing or one or two things. However, attention to detail means that you're paying attention closer to the details of any number of things, in my opinion. But that's really open to discussion. This trait is connected to discipline and is important for personal development. What can we say about the one who focuses on doing something and stays committed to getting it done? The following experience will give some perspective. Once I struggled with studying for an accounting test. I could not understand the concepts of accounting. The teacher, Mr. Evans, was not available to help at this point. He felt that he had explained enough of the principles to the class at the beginning of the course, and further instruction was of no use. I remember him saying, "Stay with me here, everyone." It was all new to me at the time. That was my first accounting class ever. It was also the first time I had an FBI agent as an instructor on a weekly basis. So a couple of people have asked me, my students particularly, how did you know he was an FBI agent? He actually told us, and he wore his badge. He could have just been getting, I think he could have just been, getting off from work when he came to taught the class. It was an evening class. And again, he was very well uh, dressed. I think that's mentioned. Well, I know that's mentioned actually in the book. Um, he was somebody who, knew accounting very well. He did spend a lot of times, talking to us about. And one thing I remember, Mr. Evans saying was that, if nothing else, he wanted us to learn the concept assets equal liability plus owner's equity, and he did teach that. He was, a very good instructor, I would say. However, what distracted me is the fact that, anytime somebody tells me that they are an FBI agent or they are, an undercover or however they worded, I just freaked out, especially back then. And I explained that in the book as to why. What did this do to me? It threw my focus off. I kept focusing on the fact that he was an FBI agent. I kept focusing on, the different things in which, I had experience with federal agents in the past, and I said to myself, I mean, is this one way that they wanted to, that they made sure that they would have eyes on me by having an instructor teach me 2 or 3 nights a week, who I would have to, explain myself to and spend so much time to. I did not know what to expect, but the more I thought about it, the less I thought about accounting, and the less I thought about what it is that I would need, what would be required, what it is that it would require for me to complete the class. And because of that, I started, my grades really dropped in that class. The testing, at the beginning was all right, but going forward, it practically took a nosedive. And he had a really good time with his students because he could tell that we needed either. I don't know if it was the reason why he was having such great time with us. I being an instructor at times, I can picture him saying, okay, these guys need my help. Let me have my way with them and help them how I see fit certain times. And, if they show me that they're really dedicated, then I'll give them more time. However, he really did have a fit. Not a fit, I'm sorry. He really did have a great time with his students. I particularly, he called me out. He used to call me by my first name, by my last name, and I was hoping he would forget that. I'm saying to myself, he's never going to forget it. He keeps calling my last name. Say Muhammad this, Muhammad that. So what do you think about this and that? And he knew that I was practically in a maze. That I did not know exactly what was going on. I'm saying to myself, why does he keep calling me out? Is he trying to get me to show, different colors of mine, so that, they can finally, come in on me? I mean, are these guys outside waiting for him to give them the, the signal, or what's going on here? But in any case, during the midterms, it was a practically a lost cause, and I happened to be in the court yard of the school, and this is at J. Sargent Reynolds Community College. I don't think I mentioned the name in the book, but it is that college. And I was working really hard on certain assignments and preparing myself for the midterms when another fellow student of mine came by, and he said to me, what are you doing? What's going on? What are you studying? And I showed him, like, I'm studying this accounting, and it's really, really, really tough. I mean, I don't know what's going on, what's happening with it. I just can't seem to, to grasp the concepts, the idea of it. And so he looked at it, and he had done some accounting in the past, and he told me, like, just follow, whatever it is that they're telling you to do. Just write it down, however you see it fitting into either assets or liabilities or owner's equity. Is it an expense? Is it appreciation? Is it a depreciation? Is that they're gonna throw those words in there, and you need to figure out where you're going to put it on the ledger. How you're going to input it in there. And he started doing it in front of me, and then he would say to me, like, okay, so what is this? Is this an asset? Is this a liability? Is this, what exactly is this? This is cash. So where does it go? And as we're communicating that back and forth, he puts in there, like, you have to, you're the accountant. They're giving you these descriptions, and you have to put it into. And I'm like, an accountant? How am I an accountant? I don't even know what's going on. And he says, listen, you got to stay focused. You have to, think that you're doing the actual profession, or that you're actually, involved in the operation itself. You can't just look at this as, you're struggling through it as a student. You have to look at it as a professional, like you're actually, calling, every necessary shot that is going on. And when you picture yourself that way, then you're much more confident. You're much more comfortable in what it is that you're writing down, what it is that you're doing. And a lot of times, people in general do not feel confident in what they're doing, or they don't feel comfortable, and that's really what throws off the level of effectiveness that they need to have. Now, I'm going to also say that in a lot of situations where people are overconfident, or people are, too comfortable, that's also not a good thing. But there definitely needs to be a balance, and there needs to be a clear vision, and there needs to be something in which is going to remind the person to stay on track with whatever it is that's going on, what it is that is happening, why it's happening. What am I have to? I mean, I'm in charge of this, so I need to know everything that is happening with it. And that's the mindset that he gave me. He gave me, the fact that stay focused, stay focused on what it is that you're doing, as if you are actually, getting paid to do it, as you've been doing it for all so long. And you may make a mistake. We all make mistakes, but you know what? Just stay focused, do the best that you can do. And when I started doing that, I started, paying less attention to, what it is that he could do, what it is that the FBI could do, or what, I may think they have done in the past, or what have you. I simply, put more focus and emphasis on the information that he was presenting in the class. And because I was putting more emphasis on that, because I was focusing more on the information that he was presenting, I actually began to follow along and staying, like he said, stay with me. So I started staying with him more and more as he was writing down the information, as he was talking about the information. I started to stay more and more with him, and I started to look more and more at the examples. And I found, a passion in doing that. And as that all started with being focused, I started to produce better. And once I started to produce better, I stayed consistent with it. I kept an open mind. And this is all, again, going back to, traits, building the habits and the personality, which, enables a person to find winning stars within themselves. Being open-minded, being consistent with it, being passionate about it, being comfortable about it, staying focused with whatever it is that is happening, and moving forward with it. We're one being. However, we have a lot of energy, and we have a lot of capacity. We have a lot of other resources. When you think of globally, the global resources such as energy or uh, uh, you know uh, competencies or resources. These are our competencies. So, there's really a lot that is within the human being, and the human being increases value. And when the human being increases value and knows what these resources are, able to identify what these resources are, what this energy is, and what the traits and the habits and the personalities are, they increase the value within those as well. When they increase the value within those, they also happen to uh, 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 have more of an output. That means that they're giving more back, to their inner circle, if you may. And because they're giving more out, they get more in return. Okay, so the more you invest, in other words, when the investment goes up, the more you get back. Likewise, the more you put out, the more you can expect of a return. And by giving more and more into the ideas and the concepts of increasing value and building on top of that, a person cannot go wrong. I did also mention in the book about getting more education. One can never go wrong with getting more education. One can never go wrong with building more information within themselves, or taking possession of more information, knowing how to distribute that information going forward. Another trait that I mentioned also was in terms of having a sense of ease in what it is that you're doing. Okay, none of us really like to be tainted, or like to taint something that we're going to do as being really hard. Okay, even if we say it, we really don't like to feel like it's true. We don't like to mean it, and because of that, the more we think that it is hard, and when we fall on hard times, then it becomes harder and harder for us to get up from, or to recover from. Because of that, it's always better to look at a situation that you have to commit yourself to, and saying, what, this is easy. I have found that to really work better for me, no matter how hard of a situation it is. Now, here's why. One reason is that look, I found, and I talk about, my martial art class at the same college, where a person, had to go through the testing phase, and had to, breaking the boards were involved. Now, the thing about it is, excuse me, uh, when you're breaking the board, if you just look at the board and hope to break the board, you may not break it. Okay, a lot of times on the first try of doing something, if you're just looking at that one thing and you say, I have to get this done, I will get this done, this is it for me, and you run into a brick, that's practically where you're saying, I gave it my best, but I could not break it. However, being and that's sometimes it may work, sometimes you may say, I did it, and that's all she wrote. However, what I found to be a sense of ease is that you have something that you need to do, or that has to take place, that must be done, and instead of you looking at it to be everything that needs to be done, you look at it to be one of smaller things that need to be done. So, for example, how did that relate to the board? The teacher, Mr. Prophet, came up to me and he said, you have the great concept of, wanting to break the board, but you have to look beyond the board. You're trying to get through the board. You're trying to, get to the other side of the board. You have to see your fist going to the other side through that board. That board is only something which is stopping you from getting to the other side. So you have to get through the board. All right. And I told my nephew, who was, in the same predicament one time, Junior over there, he didn't feel like, he was, well enough to break the board. And, he had hit the board, I think at least twice, if I recall. And I came and I whispered to him, like, you have to look at yourself going through that board. You have to see your hand getting through it. And on the next try, he actually broke it. So uh, even when we look in terms of money, if I look at my Million Stars to Self Empowerment, the book, and I say, in order for me to, be well off, I just need to sell 1,000 copies a month, and that's gonna make me just fine. Well, guess what? If that's all that I want to do, then some days I may or may not make it. Now, if I say that, all right, I need to sell 1,000 copies a month, and instead of me just settling for 1,000 copies a month, and saying that means that I need to sell 500 copies every 2 weeks, then I may make that, I may not make it. However, when I say to myself, I need to sell 10 times more than that, I need to sell 100,000 copies a month, I'm definitely going to turn around and sell 1,000 copies a month. So that's how it works. Likewise, when a person says, I just want to make $1 million, $1 million may seem like, hey, it's really hard. I don't know how I'm going to make that $1 million. But if you say I'm going to make $1 billion, then $1 million is only a step away. It's only in between you and that billion. It's a couple of steps. You get through that, and then you have to go through some other steps. So for sure, if you're focused and you stay consistent with it, and you're open-minded about it, you see it as a sense of ease, and as a passion, you're going to make it. I mean, it's bound to happen. And that's a very important trait. I want to emphasize that. When a person is being, positive, a person is being open-minded, and then the person sees ease, don't let anything, anyone get in your way and say, hey, listen, you can't do this. You should stop doing this. Let them stop doing what it is that they're doing by trying to discourage you, and then maybe they will feel what it is that you're feeling, and be able to see the energy and understand the resources that they have within them too. Do not let that get on your nerves either. Don't let that pluck you. Say to yourself, I have 1,000,000 stars. I have, star components within me, and I will see myself through all of this. Like, this is something in which I have dealt with time and time and time again, and I'm going to get through this. I believe in it. I'm going to stand by it. I have passion for it, and I'm going to make it happen. So I just wanted to relay that. And at this time, I'm going to say my thanks and gratitude to all the listeners, those who have been able to get A Million Stars to Self Empowerment on Amazon, or whether they got it through myself or another distributor. Please do feel free to visit us on YouTube, A Million Stars to Self Empowerment, or Facebook, A Million Stars to Self Empowerment page, A Million Stars of Empowerment.com, which is the blog. And I want to thank again Mr. Latif and all the other staff members who have helped us through Software Media Consultants and everyone otherwise. Again, this is the author of A Million Stars of Self-Empowerment. Thank you. God bless, and you all have a great and wonderful, prosperous day. Again, this is a message from one pure heart to another through peace, harmony, and passion. Thank you, and goodbye.